So let's start with the point number 11 today, user defined exception. So we can also make our own custom exceptions. So let's say we have to make an application that there is a person who is a wholesaler, and that wholesaler, if someone, well, wholesalers, they deal in large quantity. So they will say that if the order is greater than 500, order will be accepted, and if it anything less than that, we will reject the order saying insufficient quantity. Or we can say anything, please enter quantity greater than 500. Okay, so we'll accept the order quantity if it is greater than 500, order accepted. Else, if it is not, then we will raise our own custom exception. This will be through our own custom exception. We can call it as low quantity exception. What we can call it as? Yeah. So at the end, we'll follow the same pattern of predefined exception naming convention. That each exception class ends with the keyword exception, right? So let's try to do it. So for this, what you need to do is, if you want to make your own custom exception, you have to make a class by that name which extends any of the predefined exceptions. Any of the predefined exception you can extend. You can extend from arithmetic exception if you want. Whichever exception you know of, you can extend. Arithmetic exception, or you can say input mismatch exception. But as we know, all these exceptions extend from which class? Runtime exception. So we just keep it two options. We'll just keep it two options now. That if I want my exception to be checked strictly, and if I want my exception to be a checked exception, so who are the child of checked exception? Which classes are which classes are the all the children of the exception class? So yeah, so if I want my exception also to be a checked exception, I will extend it from the exception class. So this will make my also as what? Checked exception. Okay, so we have opened that. Let me just check. I'll share that screen. Okay, that will make it better for you all to understand. So all the children of the exception class are checked exception, and all the children of the runtime exception are unchecked exception. Correct? So the rule is, whenever you are creating your own custom exception, you have to inherit it from any of the predefined exception class. So what we do is, what we do in the checked exceptions, correct? So if I extend my custom exception class from the exception class directly, so if my low quantity exception extends exception, so low quantity exception will also be considered as checked exception. Getting it? It is falling in this category. Or if I say low quantity exception, okay, so this was, I create a class saying class low quantity exception extends which class? Exception. Okay, so this will make this class into a checked exception, correct? Or if I say low quantity exception extends runtime exception, then what happens? Unchecked, because it is now extending from the runtime exception. So it is extending over here. So you should know in which category. So normally we make it as runtime only because this is also a business logic, has nothing to do with any Java error, right? So this my low quantity exception. Yeah, so this would be the difference if I extend it from whichever class. And then once we extend it, okay, now it's up to you whether you want to extend from exception or runtime, but normally we'll do it with runtime. So our exception will fall under which category? Unchecked exception. Okay, will become unchecked exception. So once you make the class, then you make a constructor and you make a parameterized constructor which will take the error message. So whenever you will make an object of this class, you will use this parameterized constructor and you will pass the error message. And then using super, you will pass this error message to its parent class. That's all. That's all is there in this class. Nothing is there. So what all is there in the custom exception class? It extends the runtime exception, has a parameterized constructor, and it passes that parameterized constructor to its parent class constructor. Okay. So let's try to make this now. So I come here, right click. I'll follow the same. Okay. Class. So this is what low quantity exception, and then extend switch exception. Can I do extends arithmetic exception? Then it will be which category, checked or unchecked? Unchecked. If I do extend IO exception, then hmm, will fall into checked exception. So better what we do is simple. If I want to make it unchecked, follow the runtime exception. Next, okay. And then what we have to do all, just make a constructor, parameterized constructor, which will take a string, string error message as a parameter, and then it will pass it to its parent class constructor. That's all. Class is done. Okay. Then we need a driver app to throw this exception. So the wholesaler class. So we'll make a class wholesaler, which has the main method. So we will take the scanner, because we need to accept the quantity from the user. So else this out is enter quantity, and I would take it into integer quantity equals to sc dot next. Okay, now I will say if the ordered quantity is greater than equal to 500, what will I do? Order accepted. And if it is not, then what will I do? What does Java do when it encounters an exception? What is Java's natural reaction? First, it identifies to which class the exception belongs. So, which class the exception belongs? Low quantity. Then what does it do? Second step, create an object of that. So when I do low quantity exception, when I use a new keyword, it calls the constructor, right? And this class has only one single constructor which is taking a string as an argument, correct? And what is the string storing? The and what error message are we planning to store? So we will pass this. And then what does it do? Third step, it so so right over there throw. Okay. Now this line is prone to throwing an exception, correct? So we have to monitor it. So I'll put it into try catch. And if the exception is thrown, which catch will catch it now? Exception is thrown of which class? So this will catch it. And it will then display the message over there. Whatever message we have stored, we can fetch that message by using get message. One dot get message. Okay. Then there is a third part of the try catch. Have we discussed that? The third part of the try catch finally. Okay. Irrespective whether exception occurs or not, if the code has gone into try block, if the code has gone into which block, it has to compulsory go into finally. The code will go into catch is conditional to the occurrence of the exception. If the exception occurs, it goes into catch. If it doesn't occur, it doesn't go into the catch. Correct? But if the code has entered try, it has to enter finally. It is guaranteed. So here we will say sys out. Thank you. Visit again. So if the customer comes and doesn't even order anything and goes, we will still wish the customer to visit again. Correct? So when does the code go into finally? If the code has entered try, if the code has entered try block, it is mandatory on the code to enter finally in all conditions, irrespective whatever, in all conditions. Okay. Now this all whatever is there, we are later on we can go in detail, but as of now you all just say in all conditions, whatever may happen, if it has gone into try, it will go into finally. There are certain use cases which we can avoid, but that is for pro level. For you beginner guys, okay. So now if I run this code and if I order 550, what do you think will be the output? Order accepted, try. Has there been any exception? Will it go into catch? So entering into catch is conditional. It may enter, it may not enter, but it has to enter into finally. What will it display now? So what will be the output of this? Order accepted. Thank you, Delegation. Correct. Now let's enter 450. Now is 450 greater than or equal to 500? We'll go in else. It will make an object of. So first it identifies which exception class it belongs to, creates its object, and then throws the object. When the object is thrown, it searches for the nearest catch which can handle that exception. So can this catch handle this exception? So what will it display? Get message. This is the message. and then it has to enter fine. What is that? So what is the output of this code? Got it? This is called as user defined exception. Am I understood? Okay. So now can you all write me a custom exception which accepts first name? Accepts what? First name. And if it has a space, if it has a space character, throw invalid name exception. Okay. So if I have a first name called Virat, so if it has a space, I will throw what? So try that. Okay. So first you all will make a class. Which class? Invalid name exception, extend runtime exception, make a constructor invalid name exception, string error message, and super return error message. Then you'll have a driver app over here. You'll ask the user enter your first name, and then you can check if it has a space. So how will you check whether it has a space? Either you can use the for loop. Okay, so if this is my name, so what will we do? We'll take a flag equals to 0, then iterate through the entire. Okay, we can convert this into a character array. So character C, we can say name dot to character array. So now this was a string. Now it has become into a character array like this. E N U M space T E C H, and the other indexes. The other indexes as it is an array, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is tells you a character array. Now what is in C in the first iteration? This is the for each loop. E, right? Then you will check if my E is equal to what? Space. If it is, what I will do, I'll set the flag equals to 1 and I will break the loop, right? And then outside the flag I will check if my flag is equal to 1 means I'll throw the exception, right? Throw the exception. So we could have done this. We could have done this. Make a new class. Okay, so let's say college form. And then here what are we doing? Like this. C, right? Not E. And here what are we doing? Make a class invalid name exception. One class can have how many parent classes? One class can have only one parent, right? So you can browse over here if you want and then search for the parent class. Runtime exception, right? This one, right? And then directly as you finish, it will give you the code. Okay, and then where what you have to write, only the parameterized constructor. And what, and then pass it to the, that's all you have to do. Going back over here, so you can accept this name from the user. I'm doing this, and now you throw what. So this is the code which is suspicious, right? So I'll do, so throw, always throw an object, right? You are, what is this? Please enter valid name, else sys out form submit. If you're going to try to go into catch, and which catch will accept it, and what will be sys out e1 dot get message. So see, the editor is doing half of your job. You just have to understand the logic. But if you're writing this in Notepad, you have to take care of all the syntaxes yourself. And what does sysout do? All the best. So let's try to run this and check. So for enum underscore tech, what will it give me? Form submitted, all the best. How come form submitted? This is the space over here. If character C, there is a space, I set the flag as 1, flag is 0. We take, I have checked the entire empty space over here. Flag is 1 and break. Okay, there was no, this was, these are two lines, right? These are two lines, correct? So break did not work on the, what does it say? Getting it? This is called as, so this we have covered two topics. We also covered the throw keyword. So throw keyword is used to explicitly throw an exception. What is it used to? So we can, if you want to throw an, see, exceptions are thrown implicitly, right? Whenever the condition occurs. So whenever there will be a condition which leads to an exception. Now this, am I throwing new array index out of bound exception, or is it being thrown implicitly? Yeah, right. So whenever the condition occurs, it will throw implicitly. Same over here also. So wherever till now, whatever we have done. So if my, whenever the condition arises for the exception, so if I write over here null, am I throwing null pointer exception over here explicitly, or is it throwing implicitly itself? Okay, so exception, whenever the condition, it will see that this condition is leading to an exception, it will create the object of that exception and throw it implicitly. But if I want to explicitly throw an exception, then I have to use a throw keyword. You see, because Java doesn't know that it is going to throw low quantity exception. This is my own custom exception, right? So if we want to implicitly throw an exception, then explicitly throw an exception, then we will use a throw keyword. Okay, and most of the time it is used with custom exception. Most of the time it is used in conjunction with custom exception. So whenever there will be custom exception, then we'll have to throw it, because Java doesn't have these exceptions. It is our exception. So throwing also is our responsibility. And we can throw even other exceptions also. So here, if I would have said throw arithmetic exception, this would still have worked. We can throw, even we can throw implicit exception, but most of the time I said, okay, most of the time it will work with, it is used in conjunction with, what is known as conjunction, no, and that I will have a tea and sandwich. So that and is a conjunction. So we use custom exception and throw, but we can also use it with predefined exceptions also. Now what should I do over here? Which object is being thrown explicitly? So can this invalid mismatch catch arithmetic? No, right? Because this is on the same child. So we'll have to change this also to arithmetic. Now it will work perfectly. So now in MTech there is no exception. Form submitted. If I give a space and run, getting it. So we can explicitly throw predefined exceptions also. But throw is normally most of the time used for throwing custom exception. Understood? Okay, so this was